million voters casting their ballots already. This is proof that Georgia, it's easy to vote and hard to cheat. And I do want to let you know that I'm just really proud of our elections team in office. And I don't know if we've gotten to this spot yet, but I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to give a shout out to our team and also our election data. And I don't know if you can see that, but right on there it's going to show you how many people had their absentee ballots accepted, how many people had turned out early voting, what that total number is. You can also look at the percentages of all the counties and actually how many people showed up on each county. I'm just really grateful for the work that our election team has done so far. We know that we're just not even halfway through this process. Grateful for the work of our counties. And I'm going to call up Chief Operating Officer David Stewart because he has some additional details that we'd like to share with you. David?
Good morning. Happy to see so many of you again. Thank you for our national friends for joining us, because obviously Georgia's in the Philippines first. I want to get a few specific things out there. The 20 individuals who had non-citizens who were canceled based on individualized information from those people. What it is they signed affidavits to get out of jury duty, basically saying, I am not a citizen. So we were able to look at those and see that they were not citizens. They signed them, swearing they were not a citizen. And there were 7 different counties, those are the jurisdictions to which they were referred for investigation and prosecution. Those counties are Fulton, Cobb, Bibb, Clayton, Henry, Gwinnett, and Cobb. Again, Fulton, Cobb, Bibb, Clayton, Henry, Gwinnett, and Cobb. As the Secretary said, the reason we were able to get these additional 156 individuals who we do not know if they are citizens or not is because of the upgrade of technology over the last few years. The original audit was done in the old voter registration emails. The new one has been done under JARS, the Georgia Registered Voter Information System. And yes, we did get the name from the marketing, just to really tweak people. But because of that, we have a better interface with the Department of Driver Services. So in the initial audit, we did not have alien identification numbers for individuals who got driver's license. Now we're able to send names that were empty on that front that came back as null citizenship verified to the Department of Driver Services to get those A numbers and bring back and still say they don't have proof of citizenship yet. That does not mean that they are for sure not citizens. So what we have to do is we have to have human investigation where an investigator will knock on the door, look at documentation and find those things. And that will be a continuing effort, as the Secretary pointed out. Another thing to point out is, in the time in office, we have been able to legally cancel over 1 million registrations. That's not canceling voters, canceling registrations. So people who are no longer in the state, who no longer have a valid right to vote. And I want to point something out. If you go to the data hub that the Secretary talked about, you can search for Secretary of State data hub to go there, you will see that the active voter number has continued to increase every day as we go through. That's because of 2 things. One, voter registrations that were received before the deadline have been processed. And 2, and very, very importantly in this situation, inactive voters who were in the process of being canceled, who were still there, who came and voted. And that's the important reason we can't just take a national change of address list and say we have to cancel these people, because there are people who have legal rights, and federal laws there to protect those rights, and state laws there to protect those rights, and our office will always protect the rights of every voter. So with that, I'll take any questions. Archie. Okay, and an active voter is somebody who was an active voter at one point, and a few things might have happened that would cause them to get a notification saying, hey, it doesn't think you're here anymore. It's going to be a national change of address, it's going to be a return mail, and it's going to be, what's the third thing? A cross-state check would be another reason. And then they will get a mailing saying, contact us within a certain amount of days, and if not, we're going to move you to inactive. And once you're on the inactive list, if you miss 2 general election cycles, which means a gubernatorial or presidential, then they will put you to a cancel status. But we will again send a mailing to you saying, hey, one last time, and this office was the first to actually release the list publicly. So anybody can go search that list, look for their friends, look for their family, and see if they're in that position to be canceled. And of course, we can only do these 90-day windows outside the election for this kind of systematic update.
How confident are you that the citizenship audit caught all of the non-citizens that could have tried to register in Georgia? And how can voters know that non-citizens aren't voting in Georgia elections?
This is data, and there's human beings involved in data. There's always a possibility that there could be a handful, and there are states around this country that are being lauded for pointing out we have thousands of non-citizens that kept on the list but moved over to this other bucket. And we have tens and hundreds because on the front end, being a real ID state, what you need to understand is anybody in Georgia who's gotten a driver's license in the last, really, it started in 2012, completely real ID by 2016, means you have to have your proof of citizenship because the only way you're allowed to get a driver's license is if you're a citizen or you're a legal resident alien, which means you have to walk in there with your alien ID card. If you want to get that, once you have the alien ID number, you are not going to be asked to get it on voter rolls. And that's been since 2016. Or you have to have your birth certificate or your passport. And if it's unfortunate too, if you're a woman who is married, you have to walk in there with your marriage certificate. And if you're a woman who's been married and divorced, you have to walk in there with your marriage certificate and your divorce decree to show what your name is, so it matches the Social Security records. So it's we have a very, very strong system on the front end. And one of the good things is you have to interface with it once every 8 years in Georgia. A situation we saw in Arizona where they have basically tens of thousands of people who predated their citizenship check in 1996 was in Arizona, once you get a driver's license, it's good for 50 years. So you never have to go back into the government and talk about anything against it. That's one of the issues that they've run into because of their two-tiered system that they have, where they have a federal only. If you're can't prove you're a citizen, you can vote in all the federal races, including president, but you can't vote in state races. And interestingly, right now in Arizona, the Republican Party is suing to keep those people on, or they did sue to keep those people on through the next election cycle because the majority of them are registered Republicans. Yes, ma'am.
Coming in after.
Oh, so that's his chair. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good.
They are, in fact, a U.S. citizen. This is one of the things that the Secretary has fought for since he was elected in 2019. He and I and Deputy Fuchs went to Washington, D.C. in 2019 and to meet with Congress people who didn't want to talk about this. They need to update the National Voter Registration Act to allow for us to have better citizenship verification in all the states of the union. Because right now, the NVRA basically says you can't do it, which is why Arizona has that bizarre two-tier system. There are federal rules that get in the way of this. There is no proof that there is this overwhelming number of non-citizens on the rolls. Because the reality is, if you're a non-citizen and you're a legal resident and you're on a path to citizenship, if you try to register to vote, you will never get to be a citizen. It is a very high risk, very low reward for one vote thing. There are situations I know in other states where their DMVs are not as good at checking these things, and sometimes they will slip through unintentionally, and that's a bad situation. But in Georgia, I know this, and all across the country, the level of potential is very low. Is it there in every state? Likely, but a small, small amount. But in Georgia, we know we have the best system in America of stopping it on the front end. I do not see that changing the outcome of the election in Georgia, especially since we only identified 20 and they've all been canceled. Yes. Mm-hmm. What it is we will work with our attorneys and our investigative unit to hand over all the evidence we have to the individual county DAs here. Now it's editorial decisions. A situation we had where we had double voters, we handed them over, and take as an example, in Forsyth County, there were 2 double voters we handed over to them. They saw one, they said, we don't think we have enough to prosecute this one. Then they saw another where they believe they do have enough to prosecute. That is not our decision, that is not our investigator's decision, not our lawyer's decision. It is a local district attorney's decision to make those. Now, the evidence of some of these we think is at a high enough level where they probably should be prosecuted, but that's not our call. We did a press conference on that, and we had a press release on that before. I can get that back to you. I think we told 19 counties. How many double voters do we have, Blake? We'd have to check it and get you that number. But it was, again, a very small number from multiple states. And the only reason we know this is because we are a member of ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, and we compare those data. Yes, ma'am. Well, that's the reason I did the tweet, is we need to understand that if you're hyper-partisan on either side, you are an easy point of manipulation for foreign powers who want us to beat each other's throats. We need to be as discerning as we can with the information that we see. And one of the things I've been telling people is if you see information that really scratches that partisan itch, whether it's on the hard left or the hard right, it probably isn't true. And to investigate multiple sources and trusted sources like the Georgia Secretary of State or your local county elections office and get the information from them. That's the best source. Go to trusted sources. Twitter and Facebook are not always the best place for news, whether you believe that or not. Oh, yes, ma'am. Every county that we've had that discussion in, it has been an individual who said, this isn't who I meant to vote for. And they go to the poll manager and they say, okay, come back, we will spoil this ballot, and you can vote again, and they're able to do it. There is zero evidence of a machine flipping an individual's vote. Are there elderly people whose hands shake and they probably hit the wrong button slightly, and they didn't review their ballot properly before they printed it? That's the main situation we have seen. There is literally zero. And I'm saying this to certain Congress people in the state, zero evidence of machines flipping votes. And that claim was a lie to 2020, and it's a lie now. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, all. You want to address all the misinformation. You have 2 or 3 days. I mean, that's the situation we have. It's a flood. And that's why I say you have to be discerning about it. But one thing to be clear, this office provided posters. This is in part to help people understand. If you're a non-citizen, it is illegal to vote in this state by state law and by federal law. And there are posters in most of the counties in this state that have that up now to explain that to people. Because for me, it's a very big risk for those who want to be citizens, and they need to understand that. There's misinformation that is unfortunate. And people, the incentives are backwards. And I've said this many times standing here and across the country at different talks. If I say something crazy that gets lots of retweets and lots of likes, I can raise more money. That's the incentive right now. So the crazier some of these claims can be, the specific claim we found out about in Whitfield County was one elderly voter who went to the poll manager and said, this isn't who I meant to vote for. Well, ma'am, why don't you come over here and we'll work with you? So they went over there. She printed the ballot she wanted. She went and cast that ballot. A Democrat poll watcher came to her and said, ma'am, was this experience okay? Absolutely, this is a great experience. She told somebody that story, then they told somebody that story, and then a tweet went out or a Facebook post went up, and that's where this came from. The problem is one little piece of a human error, and this is the problem. There's going to be 190 million people interfacing with the system they deal with once every 2 to 4 years, with hundreds of thousands of volunteer-level human beings. There are going to be errors. What we can't allow people to do is undermine people's faith in the outcome of the election because of natural human frailty. That's why we have so many safeguards in place, so many reconciliations in place, so many audits in place, and so many machines getting tested beforehand. All right, what else?
How did these 20 non-citizens get on the voter rolls in the first place? Was it all paper application forms before we had checks in place?
The majority of them we know were definitely before the 2012 time period. We're investigating some of the other ones. They might have been paper, but that's a deeper part of the investigation, although we do know they're on the rolls and they signed the form saying they're not a citizen, so they've been removed. That's something we have to investigate. All right. Thank you all very much and have a great day, and let's break 2 million, get 3 million by the weekend.